I am a big fan of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I also kind of have an interest in geology. And so I decided a really fun video idea would be to have my geology professor react to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And, well, that's exactly what this video is. I hope you enjoy it. So, can you tell me just a little bit about what geology actually is for the general audience?
Yes, geology is the study of the structure of the earth, its corresponding features externally, and what happens internally too. So focusing on the rocky body of the earth, which is then attached to the atmosphere and the hydrosphere and the biosphere. But physical geology focuses on the solid structure and the resulting surface features.
And so geology and all those other spheres that you mentioned are all very interconnected, right?
Yes, they are.
I think that's one of my favorite things about geology. That's why I like science in general, is it's all very interconnected. So can you tell us a little bit about the studies that you've done in the past and what you might be doing soon?
Oh, yes. So I am a very interdisciplinary human. I have degrees in both social sciences and a master's of science and a bachelor's. So geoarchaeology, I've worked on multiple archaeological studies here in Ohio. I've worked with the park services doing things like tree surveys in Sequoia National Park, and I'm looking to head towards the Arctic and subarctic to measure permafrost changes because our Arctic is changing so quickly. We're losing ice at a rapid rate. And then that affects all of us. Humans are completely integrated into that.
I've had her class before, and she speaks very, very knowledgeably, and that's why I wanted her for this interview.
Thank you.
So, we have got the Dueling Peaks result of Breath of the Wild here, and is this a structure that could exist in real life? And what else do you know about it?
Do you think it could exist in real life?
I've never seen something that, I mean, that's like mythical.
It is mythical. But you know, our Earth is also mythical, and this is actually very similar to an island in Japan that has an amazing mythical story behind it too. So yes, just looking at this, I would immediately go to mountain range, right? Mountain range, but this split down the middle, how did that happen? In some mythologies, it might have been you know, the gods or goddesses were angry and took some type of, you know, hammer and split the mountain in half. Just like with volcanoes, there are all kinds of really beautiful mythologies connected to them. But there is a story similar to that. But yes, this can be real life too. It can be real life.
Do we want to jump into game and see what is in between these two mountains and see if we can tell?
Let's jump into game.
So before we do that, let's actually look at the real life equivalent to Dueling Peaks. So
yes, this is real. This is in Japan, and we know that Japan sits on what we call the Ring of Fire. It's this big, basically, ring of volcanoes, corresponding earthquakes, and lots of seismicity, and mountain ranges. Because when we think about tectonics, what does it take to build a mountain? It takes two big, really big pieces of lithosphere, or the rocky part of our Earth, to crush together over hundreds and thousands of millions of years, building something like a mountain. But this is called Sado Island in Japan, and there's actually a gold mine. With these types of mountain ranges, if you think about the pressure that it takes two gigantic crusty plates to slam together, you get different types of rocks too, and minerals. And so gold and other minerals are found, and elements are found at the bottom of this.
So they can tell, based on the tectonic activity that created this mountain, what kind of minerals would be mined near here.
Yes, I mean, we would have to know a little bit more about it, but we do know the processes that it takes to create mountains from converging plates are the same kinds of processes that it takes to realign minerals in different types of rocks. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Awesome. So let's jump into game now, and we'll take a closer look at Dueling Peaks. So here we are in Dueling Peaks. I am being attacked by things shooting rocks at me. So that's A-okay. We're going to take a closer look at the river that is here in between. So there's a river splitting down this mountain. And could this be a source of the splitting?
The river?
Yes. Or would this come later?
The river would most likely, I would say it would come later. For this, the extensive relief that you see, if you go to Zion National Park or the Grand Canyon, you'd get the same type of like, wow, this is a crazy elevation change. But what's happening is that either there's been uplift of the crust and the water keeps running and keeps eroding down. But this reminds me of what the Virgin River in Zion National Park is similar to this, the Virgin River.
Interesting. Is there anything you notice about like the rock here that would indicate? I know that there is that rivers often deposit sediment.
Yes.
Is that clear? Did the Breath of the Wild make it clear that there is sediment like deposits here?
Yeah, it does. So what's interesting is that as the river meanders around different bends, the sediment gets deposited in specific places. In this case, there's not a lot of meandering. In areas with high elevation, the river doesn't make these nice meanders. It's in lower elevation. So this, it flows, one way with gravity, one way. And then will slow down towards the end of the river. But this looks correct from what I see. It's usually on the inside of a river bend is where the water slows and the sediment drops out, and the outer bend is where a lot of the erosion is happening, a lot of weathering and erosion. So this looks, correct.
Very fascinating. I like that I enjoy. I think it's a very good sign of a game that they took the time out to make it accurate and all.
Yes, absolutely.
Like it could actually really exist. And I love that they've gotten inspiration from the real world, because our real world is really just as magical.
Right. We have to remember that there is magic in the real world too. But yeah, this reminds me, this is from my studies and my travels, is very much reminds me of Zion and the Virgin River.
All right, do you want to move on to a different landform?
Let's.
But first, a rock sample.
So the type of rock that I would suggest might be in that area is basalt. So this basalt, which is straight from molten rock, and in areas like Iceland or in the even in a rift zone up in Michigan and Wisconsin, as the crust is pulling apart, pressure is releasing, therefore lowering the melting point of like solid rock, and it can start to melt. But this would be basalt, and that's what I would understand these cliffs to be. It matches.
Next, we decided to check out Death Mountain. So, thoughts on Death Mountain? What kind of volcano is it? There's many types of volcanoes, right?
Yeah, there are multiple types of volcanoes, but this, in general, the shape, we always look at the shape of the volcano to give us an idea of what type of magma or lava is when it's on the surface, magma is underneath. What kind of magma or lava created that mountain? So this, by its shape, it looks like a stratovolcano, or what we would call a composite cone. Obviously underactive, and you can see like gaseous products being emitted. Right, see up in here, those?
Oh, yep, there we go.
So that could indicate either water that's heating up, or it could be a mixture of various gases.
I think there might be a spring near here. There might be if I remember correctly, there's a little lake here, and I think this is it. Or no, that's the actual lava lake. But there is somewhere on this map, there is a hot spring near the volcano.
Mm-hmm.
So would that...
That would be absolutely perfectly, it would exist naturally, absolutely. Very important though, if you go to a hot spring in real life, make sure that people know and that you know what you're getting into, because there could be gases dissolved in the water, or it could be just too hot.
Yeah, you can go into the hot springs, and they actually have a healing factor in the game. And it's a really easy way to heal up all of your health.
Which is exactly why I go to hot springs whenever I can.
All right, so to even be in this area, I literally have to wear armor so that I don't immediately burst into flames. So, well, if you were standing here, is there a way for a human to even be standing here without getting hurt? Is this too close?
Only if you're a professional and if you have the proper types of footwear and protective gear. Like in Hawaii, we can get this close to a lava lake, but it is obviously not very recommended. The best way to study a lava lake would be at like remote sensing with like a drone or a remotely operated vehicle of some kind, like a helicopter. But yeah, if we were there being a human, a mere mortal, we would not be able to survive this.
These structures here, where there's kind of these diagonal, like jutting up rocks here, is that, what would that be?
Yeah, so I think about, when I see those, I think about the time-lapse photography of Mount St. Helens from 2004 to 2008. And in that time-lapse photography, you can see what look like spines, or they're called spines, literally, you know, blocks of rock that are being pushed out by the hot, you know, the heat and the pressure, and they kind of form a spine a little bit, but that's what I think about.
Interesting. We are getting closer to the springs, I'm fairly sure. So there's these very tall... Yeah, it's very convenient for getting around, because I mean, this is the entire game, is climbing and going over things.
Yeah, the flying embers and ash are totally, that is realistic. What's behind you? That looks important. That looks important. Behind you? Those,
Here?
These are those
Oh,
important?
these are rocks that you can destroy with a hammer, if I have one even on me. I do not, so I'm going to destroy it with a blade of electricity, because that's something I can do in this game. So you can break these open, and
rock salt.
out comes rock salt. Let's get some rock salt.
How interesting. This is rock salt. This is a sedimentary type of rock. You could lick it. I wouldn't recommend it though. In the field, they like sometimes, yeah, but don't do it. So this is rock salt. So at one point in time, this was all dissolved. This was dissolved in water, and then the water evaporated away, leaving behind the salt, because the structure of salt doesn't evaporate with the water molecules, so it's left behind. The same thing with gypsum and all the calcite and like yeah, gypsum too. But this is rock salt. We find it underneath the Great Lakes.
So why is it realistic that rock salt is in this area? Because
I would say no. That I would yeah, usually these rock salt deposits are, you know, at one point in time the Midwest was covered with a shallow sea, a shallow tropical sea, and that's where the salt came from. But I would not connect rock salt with a volcanic area very quickly.
All right, interesting. Now you can find those rocks that you can destroy to get rock salt over like a ton of places in the game.
Yeah,
they're kind of everywhere, so I don't think it's a like intentional feature that.
Sure.
All right, while traveling, we've got another observation. So tell us about what you think about this rock and how it may form.
So if we're on a volcano, we would anticipate, you know, that most of the rock that we would come encounter with at the surface would be a direct result of some type of volcanic activity. And here you can see a change in color. So it's this, and then this flow right here, and this does very much.
So
Yes, this right here, pyroclastic flow, volcanic. There are volcanic mass wasting events like volcanic landslides, but you can tell that this color is different. And so if you were here in the field touching this, you would probably be able to tell that this is a very recent lava flow or pyroclastic flow, whereas this is a pre-existing, this was already there. So this came next, and you can see the chunks, like larger boulders and such. That makes sense, yeah.
So there's a lava lake right here.
Yep.
So at one point that lava lake was up here, and then it
cooled
down.
Well,
it cooled?
It's more like at one point the lava was flowing like this down this area,
okay,
literally flow, and then it stopped, and so whatever was left and then solidified. So it was like if you rewound that a couple million years, or minutes or something in the game, it would look like this, where that lava was flowing down the sides. So in real life, you can go to a satellite image, literally look and see where the lava was flowing and like trace around it, and then rewind the clock and there'll be another lava flow, and it's a different kind of color, it's a different, it might have followed all the same flow, like the directions.
I love how much thought has gone in that you can literally trace where the lava was. You can see where it was flowing down, and if you look below you, you can literally see the, oh my gosh, the camera.
Right.
And you can now see like it floods down here, and it's all the same thing, and you could like genuinely trace what actually happened here.
Yes, you can put it together.
I think that this game took 4 years to develop, and they delayed it a few times, and I think this must be part of the reason why is that they really wanted to polish up this game. And now the second game is in development too, and it's been delayed as well. So that gives me hope that the second game is going to be just as well defined and as detailed and as as an incredible thing to escape into.
Goddess knows we need it.
Yes. All right, that was Geology Professor reacts to The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. I hope you learned something. If you didn't, that's okay too. I'm just happy that you were open to learning something by clicking on this video. Hope you're excited for Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe I'll make something like that for this. Something like this for that. Thank you so much to Professor Davis, who was awesome during this, very genuinely interested and excited to make this. If you want to watch a high production value Minecraft version, this is one that inspired me and my lights went off. But yeah, I would like to make education content more. If you're interested in that, you can press some buttons down here if you want. I don't mind if you don't. I'm just happy you are here. Thank you so much for watching. My channel does say subscribe for inconsistent content of varying quality. That rings very true. But maybe you'll find a gem if you subscribe. Otherwise, bye forever. I'll never see you again, because the algorithm of YouTube will carry me away like we're little planktons in the current, and I think that's actually kind of cool. So yeah, bye forever. I'll never see you again, ever, 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 unless you subscribe.